My name is Kayla Peterson. I'm 35, a software engineer, and a single mom to my 9-year-old daughter, Maya. I never thought I'd ever call the police to my parents' house, until the morning I watched my older sister grab my 6-year-old daughter's wrist like she had the right to claim her. But before that moment, there was another moment, a quieter one, the kind that ruins you slowly. March 2022. I remember the hospital lighting more than I remember the words. Too bright, too clean, like grief wasn't allowed to leave fingerprints. A doctor stood in front of me with that practiced, careful face and said, "We did everything we could." My husband was gone. And I nodded like I understood, like my body knew how to stay upright when my life had just collapsed in on itself. That first month after the funeral, I moved through my house like a ghost with responsibilities. Every morning, I'd wake up to an empty space beside me, then roll over and find Maya curled up in her blanket fortress, cheeks still wet from dreams she didn't know how to explain. I was grieving. She was grieving. And somehow I still had to pack lunches, answer emails, fix bugs, smile through Zoom meetings, and pretend the world hadn't split in half. Some nights, I'd stand in the kitchen, staring at a pot of boiling water like it was a math problem I couldn't solve. Maya would tug my sleeve and whisper, "Mom, are we okay?" And I'd lie. "We're okay, baby." That's when my dad called. Frank. His voice was softer than usual, like he was borrowing it from someone else. "Kayla," he said, "you and Maya should move in with us for a while. Let your mother help. Let us help. You're doing too much alone." My mom, Linda, got on the phone right after him. "We'll take care of you," she promised. Maya shouldn't grow up watching her mother drown. I didn't want to go. Not really. Moving back felt like admitting defeat, but I hadn't slept more than 2 hours straight in weeks, and my hands were starting to shake when I held my coffee mug. So after too many nights staring at my ceiling, bargaining with a universe that didn't bargain back, I said yes. I rented out my house for $2,000 a month and told myself the rent could go towards shared expenses, food, utilities, the extra cost of a full household, a practical arrangement, a temporary one. I also received $200,000 in insurance money after my husband died. I didn't tell anyone where I put it. Not because I didn't trust my parents. Because grief teaches you how fast love can turn into need, and how fast need can turn into entitlement. At first, living with them felt like warmth. My mom cooked real dinners. My dad offered to walk Maya to the park. For the first time in months, I heard my daughter laugh without it sounding like she was forcing air into broken lungs. But there were small things I ignored because I wanted peace. The way my sister Erica, older by 4 years, would look up from her phone when Maya ran through the hallway, like a judge hearing a case. The way she'd exhale sharply and say, "She's loud." The way my mom would ask, almost too casually, "So did you keep the insurance money in savings? Or did you invest it?" I told myself it was normal curiosity. I told myself that's what families did. Checked in, tried to understand. I told myself a lot of things. Then came November 2023, Maya's 6th birthday. I threw her party at Chuck E. Cheese because she'd been begging for it for weeks, her little voice so hopeful it made my chest ache. The place smelled like pizza and sugar and overstimulated happiness. Bright lights, loud music, tiny feet racing across carpet that had seen every kind of childhood. Maya opened my gift and squealed so loudly 2 parents turned around smiling. "Mom," she shouted, holding up the doll like it was a treasure. "It's Elsa, the real Elsa doll. I've been dreaming about her." She wrapped her arms around my neck, tight enough to hurt, and whispered, "I love you more than anyone in the whole world." I blinked fast because I refused to cry in a room full of balloons. About an hour later, Erica finally arrived with her husband Brandon and their kids. Her youngest, Jaden, was already whining before they even reached our table. "Sorry," Brandon muttered, not meeting my eyes. Erica didn't even say happy birthday to Maya. She just scanned the place like she was inspecting a mess. Jaden didn't want to be there. He wanted to go home. He wanted different pizza. He wanted everything to bend around him. And Erica let him. I was talking to another mom when Maya ran up to me with panic in her face, hands empty, eyes wide. "Mom," she whispered, trembling, "I can't find Elsa." I looked down at the table. The doll was gone. "It was right here," Maya insisted, voice cracking. "I put her right here." We searched everywhere, under the table, behind the cups, near the arcade machines. I asked staff. I checked the play area. 10 minutes later, I found Elsa in the trash can, covered in sauce, buried under greasy napkins and scraps like someone wanted her erased. Maya saw it and made a sound I still hear sometimes in my sleep, like heartbreak in miniature. "What happened to my Elsa?" she sobbed. Why is she dirty? Why would someone do that? My hands shook as I lifted the doll out, trying to wipe her clean with useless paper towels. This wasn't an accident. It was a decision. I went to the manager and asked to see the security footage. He hesitated. Policies, privacy, all the usual excuses, until he saw my face. 5 minutes later, he came back looking uncomfortable. "It shows the little boy who arrived late," he said quietly. He threw the doll away. I didn't even need him to say more. I walked straight to Erica. She was at the food counter, scrolling her phone, while Jaden swung his legs like a tiny king. I held the doll up in front of her. "Did your son do this?" I asked. Erica barely looked. Then she shrugged. "He was scared of it." My jaw tightened. "Scared of Elsa?" "It's just a toy," she said, like she was flicking lint off her sleeve. "Buy another one." Something hot rose in my throat. That was Maya's birthday present. Erica's eyes finally lifted, cold, flat. "If my son isn't comfortable, I'll do what's necessary," she said. "Jaden matters more than a doll." Behind me, Maya sniffled, hugging her dirty Elsa like she could protect it by loving it harder. That's when Linda and Frank arrived. My mom took one look at the situation and did what she always did when conflict threatened her image. She turned on the person rocking the boat. "You're making this too big," she hissed at me. "We're in public, Kayla. Don't embarrass us." My dad stood beside her, silent, eyes flickering like he wanted to say something, and then choosing not to. Like always. I drove us home early. Maya sat in the back seat clutching the doll, silent tears sliding down her cheeks. In the rearview mirror, she looked so small, so careful, like she was learning how to take up less space. And something inside me hardened. 2 weeks later, we all sat around the dinner table, my parents, Erica and Brandon, their kids, and I could feel the atmosphere before anyone spoke. Whispers, glances, the kind of coordination you don't notice until it's aimed at you. My dad tapped his spoon against his glass. "We need to talk," he announced, "about Erica's situation, about how we help." Erica straightened, like she'd rehearsed it. "My company is having temporary difficulties," she said, jaw tight. "Once we get through this phase, everything will stabilize." My mom nodded so hard her earrings shook. "She's worked so hard," Linda murmured, already half crying. Then my dad looked at me. "Erica needs $200,000, he said, calm like it was a weather report. "Urgently, to pay the bank and keep the company running." My heart dropped straight through the floor. "We've already used our retirement savings," my mother added quickly, "but it's not enough." 3 pairs of eyes turned to me. My dad didn't even pretend. "Kayla," he said, "you still have that insurance money. This is the time to use it to help your sister." Erica leaned forward, voice suddenly urgent. "When the company grows, I'll pay back double." I looked down at the plate in front of me, untouched food going cold, and I realized something with a clarity that almost felt peaceful. I wasn't sitting at this table as family. I was sitting here as a resource. I lifted my eyes. "That money is for Maya," I said, steady. "For her future. I'm not trading my daughter's future for your company." My mother's face twisted like I'd slapped her. "Maya has her whole life," Linda snapped. "Erica needs it now." My dad's voice lowered, dangerous in its disappointment. "Have you forgotten what we've done for you? We helped you after your husband died. We took you in." I sat back slowly. A quiet truth settled in my bones. Help with strings isn't help. It's a loan with interest you never agreed to. That night, at 11 p.m., I sat in my small room with my laptop open, staring at the account number where that $200,000 lived, like a locked door everyone suddenly felt entitled to pound on. Then I heard it. A knock. Gentle. Firm. I already knew who it was. My dad's voice came through the door, low and certain. "Kayla, open up. Let's talk." And something told me this wasn't going to be a conversation. It was going to be pressure. It was going to be guilt. It was going to be war, wrapped in the word family. The knock didn't sound angry. That was the part that scared me most. Because my dad only sounded gentle when he believed he was right, when he thought the pressure would work better dressed as love. I opened the door and found Frank standing there holding 2 glasses of whiskey like he was offering peace instead of leverage. He handed me one without asking. "Sit," he said softly, already taking the chair across from my desk like this room still belonged to him. The amber liquid caught the light. For a second, I almost laughed at the absurdity of it. My father trying to negotiate my daughter's future like it was a business deal. He took a sip and stared at me over the rim. "You know," he began, "before you and Erica were born, I had a chance to move to California. Twice the salary, big future." I didn't answer. I knew this story. He'd told it at least a dozen times whenever he needed proof he was a good man. "I turned it down," he continued. "I stayed in Boston so you kids could grow up near grandparents. That's what family does. We sacrifice." He let the words hang, expecting them to do what they always did, make me feel small, make me feel indebted. Then he started listing everything my parents had done for me, especially after my husband died. Cooking meals, watching Maya, letting us move in. Each point sounded less like comfort and more like an invoice. When he finally paused, I set the untouched whiskey on my desk. I understand what you're saying, I replied carefully, but I have responsibilities to Maya. I promised my husband I'd protect her future. My dad's jaw tightened, a slow shift in his face like a door closing. So I pushed because I was tired of pretending. Frank, how long has Erica been in business? How many times has she started over? Do you really believe this time is different? He went silent. Not offended, just cornered. Then, reluctantly, he admitted, she's failed before, but she's learned from her mistakes. This time is different. I stared at him, feeling something in me flatten into certainty. You're asking me to gamble my daughter's future on hope, I said. My voice didn't shake. I can't do that. His eyes hardened. He stood abruptly, the chair legs scraping the floor. Your mother will be very disappointed, he said coldly. Then he walked out and shut the door just a little too hard. Not a slam, a message. And in the silence after, I realized something painful and final. My father didn't come to understand me. He came to win. The next morning, I tried to pretend we could still be normal. I made Maya cereal, cut strawberries into little hearts the way she liked, and listened to her talk about school like her world hadn't been shaken by adult greed. Mom, she said brightly, holding up her drawing, today our teacher's going to teach us about planets. I like Mars the best. I smiled, forcing warmth into my face. Mars is cool. Do you know why it's called the red planet? Maya nodded proudly. Because there's iron oxide. That's right, I said, genuinely proud despite everything. My smart girl. Then the kitchen atmosphere changed. You can feel it when someone walks into a room carrying anger like a weapon. My mother entered first. Her eyes were red-rimmed, but her mouth was set like she'd already made her decision about who the villain was. Behind her, Erica stepped in and leaned against the doorframe like a judge preparing to pass sentence. Maya didn't notice at first. She kept eating, humming softly, swinging her legs. Erica stared straight at me. So, she said, voice sharp. That's it? Decision final? I glanced at Maya and lowered my voice instinctively. Not now, I said. We can talk after Maya goes to school. Maya looked up, sensing tension like kids always do. Her eyes flicked between the adults. Erica ignored her completely. No, Erica snapped, louder. Why wait? The whole family knows you're betraying us. The word betraying hit my daughter like a slap. Her spoon clinked against the bowl. Erica, I warned, voice tight. Maya is right here. My mother made a dramatic sobbing sound and pressed a hand to her chest like she was the one being harmed. Your sister could lose everything, Linda cried. Her house, her car, Kayla, please, we're family. Maya's fingers tightened around her spoon. She wasn't eating anymore. I took a slow breath, trying to keep my tone calm. Maya, honey, just finish your breakfast. But Erica's anger was already rolling downhill. She stepped forward. You think you can just sit there, she said, pointing at me, acting like the hero while I drown? You're selfish. You always have been. My dad appeared in the doorway, rubbing his temples like he wanted to mediate without actually taking responsibility. Everyone calm down, Frank said. We can discuss this like adults. But the words like adults meant nothing when an adult was already targeting a child. Maya's pencil slipped from her fingers and rolled across the table. I saw her lower lip tremble. Then Erica's eyes snapped to my daughter. And she said it, with a bitterness so ugly it didn't even sound like her. It's all because of this kid. The room went silent. Maya froze. Her eyes widened like she'd just been told she didn't belong on the planet she loved so much. I pushed my chair back and stood, placing myself between Erica and my daughter. Enough, I said, voice shaking now, not with fear, but rage. Don't drag Maya into your mess. Erica's expression twisted like my defiance was an insult. You only care about her, she hissed. What about your real family? My real family, I said, too controlled, is the child you're pointing at. My mother sniffed loudly, eyes narrowed. She's turning you against us, Linda muttered, not even lowering her voice. Maya's eyes filled with tears, silent at first, like she was trying to be brave. Erica took one more step forward, and I saw something in her gaze, something frantic, something desperate. Like she wasn't just asking for money anymore, like she needed control. I didn't have time to process it because Erica reached around me, fast. Her hand shot out and clamped around Maya's wrist. Not gently, not like a loving aunt, like a grip meant to stop, to claim, to punish. Maya let out a sharp cry, pure fear. Mom, she screamed, it hurts! My body moved before my brain did. I grabbed Erica's arm and yanked her away from Maya with all the strength grief had ever built inside me. Erica stumbled, hit the table edge, and fell hard onto the floor. For a split second, everything paused. My mother's mouth opened in horror. My dad took a step forward. Erica looked up at me, stunned, then furious. And something inside me exploded. I hit her. Once. A sharp, fast punch that landed on her cheek. It was ugly. It was instinct. It was the sound of every warning sign I'd ignored, finally snapping in half. My mother screamed, "Kayla, what are you doing? That's your sister." Frank lunged in, grabbing my shoulders, pulling me back. Erica groaned, clutching her face. But I wasn't looking at Erica. I was looking at Maya. My daughter was sobbing, clutching her wrist, her eyes wide and glassy with terror. I dropped to my knees and wrapped her in my arms. "I've got you," I whispered, voice broken. "I've got you." Maya shook in my lap like her body didn't know how to stop being afraid. I looked up at my parents, at Linda's tear-streaked face, at Frank's tense jaw, and I felt something go cold in me. "We're leaving," I said, voice trembling with contained fury. "Right now. Nobody touches my daughter again." Linda stumbled in front of me as I stood, still holding Maya close. "You can't leave like this," she pleaded. "We're family." I stared at her. "Family doesn't hurt children," I said, each word heavy. "And family doesn't protect the person who does." Frank glanced at Erica, then at Maya, and for a flicker of a second, I saw something in his eyes. Conflict, maybe even regret. But he didn't stop Linda. He didn't stop Erica. He didn't choose my child. So I made the choice for all of us. I carried Maya upstairs, shaking, and threw clothes into a bag with hands that wouldn't stop trembling. Downstairs, Linda's voice floated up like a curse. "She's destroying this family!" Erica was crying, not from guilt, but from humiliation, and my father was silent. That silence was louder than any scream. 30 minutes later, I stood by the window with my phone pressed to my ear, listening to the dispatcher ask for my address. When I hung up, Maya sat on the bed hugging the dirty Elsa doll like it was the last safe thing on earth. Her wrist was red, swollen, and on her face there was a kind of fear that doesn't belong on a child. That's when I knew, no matter what happened next, this would never be just a family argument. Because the moment Erica grabbed my daughter, the line wasn't just crossed, it was burned. When the patrol cars pulled up, neighbors appeared on lawns like it was free entertainment. My stomach churned as the doorbell rang. My dad rushed to answer it like he could control the narrative if he spoke first. 2 officers stood on the porch, and beside them was a woman in a gray business suit holding a notebook, calm, professional, watchful. "I'm Sergeant O'Connor," the taller officer said. "This is Officer Reynolds, and this is Ms. Angela from Child Protective Services." My father tried to smile. It looked painful. "This is just a misunderstanding," Frank began. "A family disagreement." Sergeant O'Connor's expression didn't change. "We still need to speak with everyone in the house, sir." And as they stepped inside, I felt my heart hammering so hard I could taste metal. Because once strangers enter your home for your child's safety, there's no pretending anymore. There's only truth. And I could already feel my family getting ready to twist it. The living room felt smaller with uniforms inside it. Sergeant O'Connor stood near the center of the room, calm and unreadable. Officer Reynolds took notes. Ms. Angela, from CPS, knelt slightly so she was eye level with Maya. Erica was already seated on the couch with an ice pack pressed dramatically to her cheek. "She attacked me," Erica said immediately, voice sharp with indignation. "Look at my face." My mother chimed in before anyone asked her. "Kayla overreacted. It was nothing. Erica just touched Maya's hand." Touched. The word made my jaw tighten. Ms. Angela turned toward Maya gently. "Hi there. I'm Angela. Can we talk for a minute?" Maya looked at me, eyes huge. I forced my voice steady. "It's okay, sweetheart. I'm right here." They moved to the far corner of the room. Not out of sight, just out of earshot. I watched Ms. Angela's body language carefully. Calm, open, patient. Maya's shoulders were hunched at first. Then slowly, haltingly, she began to speak. Meanwhile, Officer Reynolds approached me. "Ma'am," he said professionally, "can you tell us exactly what happened?" I took a breath that felt like swallowing glass. "This morning," I began, "Erica confronted me about money while my daughter was present. I asked her to wait. She didn't. She blamed Maya. Then she grabbed her wrist hard enough to make her cry." "Did you strike your sister?" he asked. "Yes," I said without hesitation, "after she grabbed my child." There was silence. Then Erica scoffed. "I barely touched her. Kayla treats that kid like she's the center of the universe. She's tearing this family apart over money." My mother snapped. "You're exaggerating everything. This is a normal argument." Sergeant O'Connor looked at Linda sharply. "Ma'am, please let her finish." My father stood near the window, staring outside as if the neighbors' curious faces were more interesting than what was happening inside. He wouldn't look at me. Ms. Angela returned after several minutes. She spoke quietly to Sergeant O'Connor, but I caught enough. Bruising consistent with force, she said. Child confirms pain. Officer Reynolds approached with a small camera and carefully photographed the red marks on Maya's wrist. Each click of that shutter sounded like something final. Erica's composure cracked. "This is insane," she shouted. "You're ruining my life over this." My mother suddenly stood and pointed directly at Maya. "This is because of you," Linda cried, voice shaking with fury. "You've turned my daughter against her own family." The entire room froze. Maya flinched like she'd been struck again. I stepped forward immediately. "Document that," I said firmly to the officers. "She just blamed my child." Ms. Angela wrote quickly in her notebook. Sergeant O'Connor stepped between me and my mother. "That's enough," he said calmly but firmly. My father finally spoke, voice thin. "Linda, stop. She's just a child." But it sounded like an afterthought. After another round of statements, the officers conferred quietly near the doorway. Sergeant O'Connor turned to me. "We're not making an arrest today," he said, "but a case file will be opened. Given the circumstances, we strongly advise you to find alternative accommodation immediately. This environment is not safe for your daughter." Ms. Angela nodded. "We will continue to monitor the situation. The injury and the statements raise concerns." That was the confirmation I needed. I wasn't overreacting. I wasn't dramatic. I was protecting my child. We left that house with 2 suitcases and a silence that felt permanent. As I buckled Maya into the car, she looked up at me, eyes still red. "Mom," she whispered, "why did Grandma say that?" I swallowed hard. "How do you explain resentment to a 6-year-old? "Grandma was angry," I said gently. "Sometimes adults say things they shouldn't." Maya stared at her wrist, then at the Elsa doll in her lap. "Did I do something wrong?" My heart broke cleanly in 2. "No," I said fiercely. "You did nothing wrong. Nothing." That night we stayed at a hotel. I lay awake listening to Maya's breathing beside me, watching every rise and fall like it was oxygen for both of us. At 2:17 a.m., my phone vibrated. A bank notification. Unauthorized login attempt detected on Maya Peterson Trust account. My stomach dropped. They weren't just angry. They were trying to get in. Within a week, my tenant agreed to terminate the lease early after hearing what happened. We moved back into my own house. It felt empty. Most of the furniture had been sold when I rented it out, but it was ours. Quiet. Safe. I rearranged my work schedule and got approval to work remotely 3 days a week. I informed Maya's school that no one except me was authorized to pick her up. The principal nodded firmly. "We'll ensure her safety." Maya began having nightmares. Sometimes she'd wake up crying, clutching her wrist. Other nights she'd ask, "Does Aunt Erica hate me?" I started therapy appointments immediately. And I blocked my parents' numbers. They didn't stop. They just switched methods. Letters began arriving, then emails, then official-looking envelopes. The first legal letter made my hands shake. They were demanding visitation rights. They were demanding reimbursement for childcare contributions. They were demanding a portion of the rent I'd paid while living in their house, like my grief had been a transaction. That's when I hired Ms. Rodriguez. She read the letter slowly, eyebrow lifting. "They have no legal basis," she said calmly. "You voluntarily contributed rent. They cannot retroactively charge you for raising your own grandchild." She tapped the CPS report. "This," she said, pointing at the photo documentation, "is strong evidence. Combined with testimony, we can request a restraining order." I nodded. "Yes, I want it." We filed. The restraining order was granted temporarily while the case moved forward. Ms. Rodriguez also advised something else. "Transfer the insurance funds into a formal trust," she said. "Lock it down legally. Add additional security layers." I did it the next day. Multi-factor authentication. Alerts. Restricted access. And still, 2 more suspicious login attempts came through over the following weeks. Different IP addresses. Different times. Like someone was testing doors. During all of this, I met Ethan Hale. He wasn't dramatic. He wasn't loud. He was steady. We met through a mutual colleague at work. Just coffee at first. Casual. Careful. He listened more than he spoke. When I told him about Maya, about the move, about the restraining order, he didn't offer solutions. He just said, "You did the right thing." And for the first time in months, someone said it without hesitation. But there was one detail I didn't think much about at first. Ethan mentioned his ex-girlfriend, Sophie, worked in financial compliance at a regional bank. I barely registered it. Until one evening after dinner, he hesitated and said casually, "By the way, Sophie mentioned something odd. She said someone was asking questions about trust protections recently. General stuff, not names." My pulse slowed. "What kind of questions?" I asked. about how hard it is to access funds placed in a minor's trust, about cosigners, about court orders. A chill crept up my spine. "Who asked?" I said quietly. He frowned slightly. "She didn't say, just that it came up through a contact." I didn't tell him what I was thinking, but the pattern in my head sharpened. Erica's company failed. She needed $200,000. Login attempts began. Now, someone in a banking circle was probing about trust access. Coincidence felt too generous. I forwarded the information to Ms. Rodriguez the next morning. She was silent for a long moment. "Keep documenting everything," she said carefully, "and don't discuss financial details with anyone, not even casually." I hung up and looked around my quiet living room. Maya was coloring on the floor, humming softly. The house was peaceful, but beneath that peace, I felt something else, like the war had simply moved from the kitchen to paper. And paper can be just as sharp. 2 days later, another letter arrived. This one more aggressive, threatening legal escalation, claiming I was alienating Maya from her grandparents, claiming emotional harm. I stared at it for a long time. Then I folded it, placed it in a folder labeled evidence, and closed the drawer slowly. Because this wasn't just about money anymore. It was about access, control, and entitlement. And I knew something with absolute clarity. They weren't finished trying, and neither was I. A year later, our kitchen smelled like vanilla frosting and melted candles. It wasn't a big party this time. No loud music, no crowded arcade, no relatives pretending to smile. Just me and Maya. 7 candles flickered on top of an Elsa-themed cake I'd ordered from a small bakery down the street. It wasn't extravagant, but when Maya saw it, her entire face lit up. "Mom," she gasped, "it's perfect." Her smile that morning felt different than the year before, softer, more cautious, but real. Therapy had helped. The nightmares had faded from every night to once in a while. She laughed more easily now. She talked about friends at school instead of asking why Grandma was angry. We were healing. That's what I told myself. We were healing. We were just about to sing when the doorbell rang. My stomach dropped immediately. I wasn't expecting anyone. No deliveries. No neighbors. Just us. I told Maya, "Stay right here," and walked to the door slowly, heart thudding. When I looked through the peephole, my breath caught. Linda. She looked older than I remembered. Thinner. Her hair completely gray now, pulled back loosely. She held a small gift bag in one hand. For a split second, my chest tightened, not with anger, with memory. Christmas mornings. Maya on her lap. Laughter. Then I remembered the kitchen. The pointing. "Because of you, my family is ruined." I opened the door just a crack. "What are you doing here?" I asked calmly. Her eyes filled immediately. "Happy birthday to Maya," she said softly. I brought her a gift. "You know there's a restraining order," I reminded her evenly. "You shouldn't be here." Her chin trembled. "I miss my granddaughter," she whispered. "Just 1 minute, please." Behind me, I could hear Maya shifting in her chair. I stepped further into the doorway, blocking the view inside. "I'm not violating a court order," I said. "You need to leave." Linda swallowed. Then her expression changed. Not manipulative exactly, but urgent. "I didn't just come for her," she said quietly. "Your father had a heart attack." The words hit harder than I expected. I kept my face still. "Is he alive?" I asked. "Yes," she nodded quickly. "He just got out of surgery. The doctors say he'll recover, but insurance won't cover everything. We need $20,000. There it was. The number. Not $200,000 this time. Just enough to sound reasonable. Suspicion flared immediately. "Do you have proof?" I asked flatly. "Or is this another story?" Linda pulled a stack of folded papers from her purse and slid them through the crack in the door. Massachusetts General Hospital. Cardiac surgery. Billing statement. Outstanding balance. I scanned them quickly. They looked real. Very real. "Where's Erica?" I asked without looking up. Linda's mouth tightened. "Her company went bankrupt months ago. She can't help." She lifted her eyes to mine. "You're his last hope, Kayla." The phrase echoed in my head. Last hope. I closed the door gently. Not in her face. Just enough to separate us. I leaned my forehead against the wood and closed my eyes. Behind me, Maya's small voice drifted across the kitchen. "That was Grandma, wasn't it?" I turned slowly. She stood there holding the plastic knife we'd planned to use to cut the cake. Her eyes weren't afraid. They were confused. "Yes," I said. "Is Grandpa sick?" I crouched down to her level. "He had heart surgery." "Is he going to die?" The question was so blunt it almost knocked the air out of me. "I don't think so," I said honestly. She studied my face carefully. "Are we going to help him?" I didn't answer right away. That night, long after Maya fell asleep, I lay staring at the ceiling. The images wouldn't stop replaying. Erica's hand grabbing Maya's wrist. Linda pointing at my child. My father standing there doing nothing. Then another image surfaced. Frank teaching me to ride a bike. Running beside me until I found balance. Frank clapping when I graduated college. Frank holding Maya for the first time. Was he guilty? Yes. Was he cruel? Sometimes. Did he deserve to die because of pride? I didn't think so. But helping came with a cost. Would it reopen doors? Would it signal weakness? Would it teach Maya that boundaries bend when guilt knocks loud enough? I rolled onto my side and stared at the clock. 2:03 a.m. And I realized something uncomfortable. I wasn't deciding whether he deserved help. I was deciding who I wanted to be. By sunrise, I had my answer. The hospital corridor smelled like disinfectant and old coffee. I didn't bring Maya. I dropped her at school like normal and kissed her forehead. I'll pick you up after school, I said lightly. Then I drove straight to Massachusetts General. I verified the records at the front desk. Frank Winters, Wing B, room 304, stable condition. I didn't go to his room. I walked instead to the billing department. I'd like to pay the outstanding balance for patient Frank Winters, I said calmly. The woman behind the counter looked surprised. Are you a relative? I'm his daughter. She processed the paperwork slowly. Verified identification. Printed forms. I wrote the check for $20,000. My hand didn't shake. When she asked if I wanted to leave a message for the patient, I paused. Then I shook my head. No message. Because this wasn't reconciliation. It was closure. As I stepped outside into the cold air, I felt something strange. Not forgiveness. Not relief exactly. Just clarity. I had helped because I chose to, not because they demanded it. And that difference mattered. My phone buzzed as I reached my car. A text from Ethan. Ethan, hey, random question. Did someone contact you about trust funds recently? My heart skipped. What do you mean? I typed back. He called immediately. Sophie mentioned something odd again, he said carefully. She said someone, through an intermediary, was asking about whether hospital debt can be used as leverage to access protected assets in a minor's trust. I went very still. Leverage, I repeated quietly. Yeah, she didn't know details, just that the question was specific. I looked back at the hospital entrance, at the building I'd just walked out of. They're testing angles, I said slowly. What? Ethan asked. I exhaled. I just paid the hospital directly, I said. Not them, directly. There was silence on the other end. Kayla, he said carefully, if they're looking for legal workarounds, that's not desperation. That's strategy. Strategy. The word chilled me more than any accusation. I got in my car and stared at the steering wheel. I had done the right thing. But I suddenly understood something even more important. Helping once doesn't stop people who believe they're entitled. It only shows them you're capable of compassion. And compassion can look like weakness to the wrong person. As I drove to pick up Maya, my thoughts shifted from guilt to something sharper. If they were still searching for access, then the war wasn't over. It had just changed shape again. The calls started again 2 days after I paid the hospital. Different tone this time. Softer. Almost grateful. Linda left a voicemail at 7:42 a.m. Kayla, we know what you did. The hospital told us the balance was cleared. Thank you. Your father cried when he found out. Maybe this is a sign we can start over. Start over. As if history were a whiteboard you could just wipe clean. Frank left one message too. His voice sounded weaker than I'd ever heard it. I owe you, he said quietly. You did something honorable. He didn't mention Maya. He didn't apologize. He didn't say Erica was wrong. He said he owed me. A transaction again. Erica didn't call, but she sent one email. Subject line, we need to talk like adults. I didn't open it. I forwarded it directly to Ms. Rodriguez, because I was done responding emotionally. From now on, everything went through paper, through law, through structure. The restraining order remained in place, but the pressure shifted. Subtle, indirect. A certified letter from a new attorney requesting family mediation. A polite inquiry about rebuilding healthy intergenerational relationships. Language so polished it almost looked sincere. Almost. Ms. Rodriguez skimmed it and sighed. They're repositioning, she said. When aggression fails, they try reason. It doesn't change their original objective. And what is that? I asked quietly. Access, she replied without hesitation. Access to Maya. Access to influence. Access to possibility. Access to money. I nodded slowly. Then I made the decision that had been forming quietly in my chest for weeks. I want to sell the house, I said. Ms. Rodriguez looked up. Boston? Yes. And go where? Portland, Maine. Far enough to make casual visits impossible. Close enough that my job wouldn't suffer. A clean cut. When I told Ethan about the move, he didn't hesitate. If that's what keeps you and Maya safe, he said, I support it. But I wasn't finished with the conversation. I need to ask you something, I said carefully. He looked at me, serious. Did Sophie ever speak to Erica? His jaw tightened slightly. I don't think so, he said slowly. They might have crossed paths at some finance event once. Why? Because someone has been probing trust loopholes, I said calmly. And Erica doesn't think like that alone. Ethan exhaled. I'll talk to Sophie, he said. I studied him for a long moment. I don't want confrontation, I said quietly. I want clarity. 2 days later, he came back with an answer. Sophie admitted that Erica reached out last year, he said carefully. Not through her directly, through a mutual contact. Erica was asking about whether court-ordered medical debt could override certain financial protections. I felt something inside me go still. She said she told them it wouldn't work, Ethan added quickly, that trust funds for minors are heavily protected. But she answered this question, I said softly. He didn't argue. That was enough. Erica wasn't just emotional. She was strategic, which meant every apology would be tactical too. The house sold within a month. Boston's market was strong. The realtor was thrilled. I packed slowly. Maya folded her clothes into boxes and asked 1,000 questions about beaches and new schools. Will there be movie theaters in Portland? She asked seriously. Yes, I laughed. There will be movie theaters. Will Grandma and Grandpa know where we live? The question landed gently this time. No, I said honestly. Not right away. She considered that. Are we running away? I knelt in front of her. No, I said firmly. We're choosing peace. She nodded like that made sense. And somehow to her it did. The morning we left, I didn't look back at the house. I had already closed that chapter in my heart. The drive to Portland felt lighter than I expected. Ocean air greeted us like something new instead of something haunted. 2 years passed faster than I imagined possible. Our small house sits 5 minutes from the beach. Every morning, Maya and I walk along the shore before school. She's 9 now. She plays soccer. She takes piano lessons. She laughs without hesitation. She doesn't ask about Erica anymore. Sometimes she asks about Frank and Linda, but without fear. Just curiosity. The letters from Boston still come occasionally. I mark them returned to sender. Unopened. Unanswered. Frank recovered. I know because Ms. Rodriguez quietly confirmed it through public records. Erica never rebuilt her company. I know because silence can be louder than success. Ethan moved to Portland a year after we did. Slowly, carefully. He understood that trust with me wasn't automatic. It had to be earned. And he earned it, not by promising protection, but by respecting boundaries without complaint. Sophie disappeared from the picture. Different job, different city, different orbit. Sometimes, late at night, I think about that morning in my parents' kitchen. About the second Erica grabbed Maya's wrist. About the exact sound my daughter made when fear hit her throat. And I know something with complete certainty. That was the moment everything changed. Not when I called the police. Not when I refused the money. Not when I paid the hospital bill. It changed when I understood that love without boundaries becomes control. And family without accountability becomes danger. Did I do the right thing paying $20,000? Yes. Because I didn't do it out of guilt. I did it because I refused to let bitterness shape me. But cutting contact? That wasn't punishment. It was protection. Maya once asked me, is love conditional? I thought about it for a long time before answering. Love, I told her, is unconditional. But access is not. She nodded slowly and went back to building a sandcastle that the tide would eventually wash away. That's the thing about the ocean. It teaches you something quietly. You can't stop the waves, but you can choose where you build. 2 years ago, I built my life on obligation. Today, I build it on safety.